What's going on, guys? I'm Bill and welcome to Bill's How To. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to build a block retaining wall to transform an area from this into this. Let's get straight into it, guys. Let's do this. Alright guys, so we've got two retaining walls to be built. First one is going to be right here, about a 6-meter run all the way across. This one will have two blocks stacked on top of each other, plus a capping on top. The first block is going to be under the soil, about half to a full block under the soil. That's going to give us all the added strength that we need. Now the blocks that we're using are dry stack, which means you don't need any adhesive or mortar in between. They simply stack on top of each other and you just glue the capping on top. Now this one here is our second trench. These trenches were dug out probably about 4 weeks ago. You can see there's a bit of a wet spot right there. We've got our pickup points which were pre-done. That's going to be for our ag line drainage. So to make sure that we get any excess water that comes behind the retaining wall is going to get picked up in these points right here, and that leads to our stormwater. So these are the blocks that we're going to be using. We've got here the Tasman blocks in opal white. So this one here's got a textured face on it. They dry stack straight on top of each other. Each block weighs about 20 kilos, which is about 45 pounds. So they are super heavy, dense material. Once these are in properly, they'll last a lifetime. They're about 200 in height, 390 in length, and about 225, I think it was, in depth. So they are pretty large blocks. With our capping, these are 60 mil high. And once again, we've got a nice textured face on the front there. Now, originally with this retaining wall, what I was planning on doing pretty much up until today was to make my foundation using road base. Now, before you stack all these blocks on the ground and start running everything through, you need to have a nice strong level foundation. Now the foundation can be used through road base, so just mixing road base on the ground, compacting it in layers, and that's going to be sufficient, especially with these blocks here. They're engineered, I think, to go up to about 800, I think it was, in height. So that's 4 layers in height, or 4 courses in height, without having any kind of concrete footing. So that was my original plan, was to put 200 mil of road base, 50 mil down, compacted, 50 mil down, compacted, 50 mil down, compacted, and then that last 50 mil, my plans were to mix cement through the mix. So 1 part cement to 10 parts road base, and that should stabilize that top layer and give us a nice flat strong surface for the blocks to go on. So up until today, that was my plan. However, I've got the boys coming tomorrow to pour the pool surround. I'm in plain concrete, so I thought while the pump's here, the boys are here, everyone's already here, I might as well get them to pour the concrete footing as well. So they're going to be doing that tomorrow. It's the exact same process, whether you're doing road base or you're doing a concrete footing, apart from compacting it down really. So once we've got that footing down, everything else is going to be exactly the same afterwards. So that last screw that's down there, that's going to be the top of my foundation. I've transferred that measurement over to a Rio bar, and I've got my string line running all the way across. So that string line is now dead level. It's squared because I've marked it off the formwork here to make sure that everything's nice and square, ready to go. They're going to be building the foundation level to the top of this string line. Whether it's concrete footing or it's road base, the process is going to be exactly the same. To get everything up to this level here, nice and flat, then you can simply dry stack all your blocks on top. Now with the blocks, like I said, the first course, I want to try get that under the ground. That's going to lock everything in, and then we can stack everything on top, and that's going to give it the maximum strength. So these ones here, like I said, are engineered to go up to about 800 high or 880 high, somewhere around the lines of that. I think it was 4 courses plus a capping, without the need of a concrete footing. So having the concrete footing is going to be a plus side for me, especially because I don't have to do any work tomorrow. I can just watch the boys pour the concrete. After that, smooth sailing with installing all these blocks. Alrighty, so the concrete footings have now been poured. The pool surround has been poured as well. This will be a separate video. I'll do a time lapse of the whole pool construction. Once again, the footing up here, all been poured, ready for tomorrow morning to have a big day installing all these retaining wall blocks. Alright guys, so it's the following morning now. Everything's ready to go. I've been playing around with my blocks to see what my levels are going to be like. Everything is spot on. My measurements were 100% correct, which is awesome. We've got our level here, which I was just checking to see exactly how much that bottom block will be embedded into the ground, and it's looking like it's going to be about 3/4 of the way, which was what I was anticipating. I'm going to quickly take the blower, blow off any loose material that might be on that foundation so everything's nice and flat, ready to go to start laying our blocks. We've got my old Rio bar here. I'm going to tie the string line back onto there, run it all the way back across to that screw that we put in the fence post over there. That's going to give us a guide so that we've got something to work off for the face of the blocks, especially on the first course. That way we're going to make sure everything's nice and level, square, and straight. That way once the first course is done, nice and straight, everything else just simply stacks on top of it. Alright, so now we've got our string line in place. We're running the string line all the way across to the other side, and we're making sure this one here is going to be 100% straight. Now you can use the back of the block here because it's squared. Line it up with the back of this block here, but just to be safe, we're going to be also using the string line. Now you can't run the string line on the face here because this one here is textured, so it runs in and out, it won't be straight. What we're going to be using instead is just before this bevel here on the top of the block. So we're going to line that one there up on top, and we're going to be running that all the way through using our blocks. Now these ones here are dry stacked and they simply just lay right next to each other. So take one of your next blocks, drop it in place, and you can see there, we know we need to tap this one here over just a bit to square it off, close up that gap, and if we have a look at the top of our string line here, it's running perfectly just before that bevel. So that's going to be our guide the whole way along. We're going to use the back of the block to get that one there nice and flat, and we're also going to be using our string line to make sure everything's nice and straight. So we're going to repeat the process for the full course all the way down to the other side. Now we started with a full block here on the other side. We're going to most likely need to cut that one, and then we're going to stagger them, and I'll show you guys how to do that once I do this complete first course. So we've made it all the way to the end with our first course. Now we have to cut a piece in order to slot into here. Now the back and the front here would be the same in length. So if we measure up from the timber here over to the edge, we've got just under 310. So if we make it 305, give us a little bit of clearance, check the face, and we've got the same here. So we're going to cut it at 305. We've got 305, which is right here. We'll take a square and we'll transfer those measurements all the way around. Alright, now there's two ways you can do this. You can use an angle grinder with a diamond blade or a masonry blade on there in order to cut through it. You just score around those lines and then tap it with a hammer and it'll break off. Another way you can do it is by using a hammer and a baluster like this. So just go around all the edges, give it a light tap, try to get it on a flat surface. Follow that all the way around, and that's going to weaken the block right on that area. Obviously works better with a lumpy, but you'd have to go find one then. That has now cracked all the way through. Now you can see here we've got a little bit of a rough edge. Once again, you can take it and clean all of this up. My personal preference is with an angle grinder. It's a little bit dusty, but it's much faster, and you can contour and clean up the area nice and simple using the grinder. Then you can take your hammer and baluster and now we've got two perfect halves. If you want, you can take the angle grinder, and if you need to shave down any areas. So now we can take our cut piece, drop that one there in place, line it up, and that one there is now ready to go. Now we can remove the string line as I've already done. So before we can start laying our second course, what we need to do is quickly clean off these blocks. And what I mean by that is, if you have a look there, there's little lips on the edge. You just want to run a scraper over the top, make sure everything's nice and flat. That's going to make sure that your next level is also going to be sitting flat. You don't want it to sit on a little pebble or a little bit of debris that's sitting on there. That's going to create a little wave in your retaining wall, and it's not going to look nice once it's done. So just a little bit of prep work, run through, scrape all of these high spots, and it's going to make the world of difference. Once we've gone through and scraped all of these ones here off, we need to fill the core here with blue metal. Now it doesn't have to be blue metal, as long as it's free draining. That's going to give us a bit of support, and once again, if water gets in there, it's going to be able to drain nicely. Today we're going to be using some blue metal. So we've got here 20mm blue metal. You can use 10mm, 20mm, as long as it's free draining. That's pretty much the main issue here. So we just need to fill all of that all the way through with blue metal. So we can take the blue metal, pour it inside, do the same thing in between the blocks. Brush off any areas that are sitting up too high. That might give you an issue on the next course. And just work your way through all the way along. So with every new course of blocks, you want to stagger the joints. So that means we've got a full block sitting right above the joint below. What that's going to do is add strength and durability, and it's also aesthetically pleasing. So you can see there, the joint's going to run up into the full block. So that means we have to start this time around with a half block. So now we can take that half block, drop that one there on top. You can see there, it locks into those little lugs. So the way it's designed, the opening on the bottom sits straight over these lugs, and they can slide over across as much as you need. So we'll slide this one here hard up against that fence, push it all the way to the back, because this one here has a little bit of a rebate. So probably about 5 to 10 mil of a rebate. It's going to be leaning slightly back. We can take our next block, drag that one there across, lock it over those lugs, and simply push it across. And we're going to repeat the process all the way along. Once that's done, repeat it again, put the blue metal inside, and it's a nice little repetitive, easy little project. Alright guys, so the second course is now complete, and this retaining wall is looking unreal. Really happy with the way it's turning out so far. What I'm going to do before I do my capping is I'm going to arrange my drainage. So especially because I'm now going 200 high, which means there's a bit of a grade coming down to the retaining wall, it's going to pick up a bit more water than I was hoping, but luckily we've got all our provisions in place. I'm going to be installing some ag line at the back here. So this is the ag line that we're using. It's a 100mm slotted ag line, which means it's got little slots in there, and it's also got a sock on the top. Now the sock's going to help filter the water. It's going to allow the water to pass through, but not any soil. And I've also got some geofabric, which is going to do the exact same thing. And the reason why I'm using both, you don't have to use both, but I'm going to have the geofabric lined at the back of the retaining wall and wrap around the blue metal once I fill it all in. And the reason why I'm doing that is because we've got white blocks. I want to make sure that no soil passes through and only water, so that it doesn't stain the blocks. So that's the reason why I'm putting both of them in, but the more the merrier. It's going to make sure that we've got sufficient drainage. So what I'm going to do now is start connecting all my fittings. Now we've got a 100mm pipe here. You can see my shadow in there. We've got a T. Okay, so this T is going to sit on top, and we're going to connect the ag line on either end. But in order to do that to our 100mm pipe, we need to first put in our joiner here. So this little adapter, one side goes into the 100mm pipe, and you can see the other side has got little teeth on the inside that's going to bite onto the ag line. So if we put these two together, you can see we've got teeth on both sides. We're going to need a little joiner piece, which is going to be probably about 80mm or so. I need to cut a little piece to join these ones here together. You guys will get to see it all happening anyway. But first things first, I'll cut this pipe and the one on the other side, and then we'll put our geofabric in and then connect our T. My reciprocator saw just died, so I'm gonna have to use an angle grinder. Not the best tool for this job, but it's gonna have to do. So now we can take the joiner, and that simply slides over the top. So now we can take the joiner, that simply slides inside. You can apply a bit of glue if you want. However, once this one here is in, connected, and encased with blue metal, that's not going anywhere. All right, so the geofabric is now in. We can cut a little incision here, make some space so that we can get around our pipe. Same thing on the other side. And now that we've got these ones here located, what we're going to do is put just a thin bed of blue metal on the bottom. So probably about 20, 30, 40, 50 mil, however generous you're feeling. Put that as a bedding on the bottom. Then we get our ag line and we can connect our ag line to it. So now to get our little joiner piece, you can put these two together because these two are going to go over the top. Measure them up from one section to the other. We've got 60 mil, so even if it's a little bit higher than that, it doesn't matter. But ideally, I don't want too much of a gap in between. I want to keep this as low as possible so we can pick up as much of the water that's sitting low. So if we have it at, say, 60 to 70 mil, that'll be perfect. We take our corrugated pipe, we can measure up here. You can cut this with a nice sharp blade. Most of it anyway. We need to cut over that rib. And now we've got our little joiner piece. So we're going to cut one more, roughly around the same. So we can take our joiner, that'll push in and you'll hear it click. Take our T, drop that on top. And that's now ready to be joined up from either end. So now we can measure the distance that we need up until our joint, which is around 1550. We'll cut that one with the sock, connect it, and on the other side we put an end cap to prevent the water from going out the other side. It's going to all flow into this pickup point and go straight down into there. Alright, so it looks like a storm's about to hit. Need to quickly backfill this trench here. That's the cap. Simply click it on, pull that sock back on. We'll do the same on the other side and we'll backfill this one here. So once you've got enough in the trench, you want to take your geofabric and just fold it over just like that. So do that the whole way across. And then we're going to put blue metal on top of this and we're going to bring it up almost the whole way to the top course of this block. Once that there's done, we can cut the geofabric and then we can install our capping. And that there is now ready to have the cap installed. So now it's time to install the capping. We're going to be using construction adhesive or liquid nails to install the capping, making sure to center these ones here once again so they're staggered on the joints. We're going to take our liquid nail. Don't want to put too much on the face here simply because as you push it down it might ooze out. So just put a small little bead on the front here. On the back you can be a little bit more liberal. And we're going to put a decent sized blob up on top. And the reason why I put this blob is that's going to help us with our leveling, just in case it's out just slightly. So we take our cap, you can see there we've got a groove to help center it, drop that over the top, line it up, and if you like, you can take your level and run that straight over the top. So making sure, try and keep our face here as square as possible. This one here is textured, so it's going to have a little bit more tolerance than what a smooth face would. But we can still push that out just slightly until we're 100% happy with that. And then we move on to the next capping, and we're going to repeat the process the whole way down. So now the capping's all in place, I'm now going to repeat the exact same process on the other little retaining wall, and once that's done, I'll show you guys the finished product. And once it's all done, this here is the finished product. This little retaining wall here is looking absolutely beautiful. Very happy with the way it turned out. In total, it cost me about $3,500 to $4,000 for the stone, for the concrete, for everything to be installed, the ag line, everything apart from the grass. Obviously, I've just laid turf, 2 courses high, plus a capping, in a total of about 25 meters, I think it was, and about 2 days worth of work. So definitely worth the money, worth the time, I'd say. This retaining wall is looking really nice. I'll show you guys the top. The grass is still very squishy and soft because its sprinklers have been running non-stop. Everything's on timers, and one of them failed out the back. You can see there's a whole bunch of water still sitting out there. That one's been resolved. We've got our glass pool fencing that still needs to go in, so there's going to be a separate video on how to install that as well. But back to this retaining wall, very, very happy with the way it turned out. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying these videos. You're learning something new. My videos are a lot longer than your traditional videos on YouTube, because I show you guys step by step how to do it yourself, so that you can actually get out there and tackle a project like this yourself. You'll save a lot of money, and the satisfaction is worth it in itself. There's a donation link in the description below if you want to help me fund some of these projects. Obviously these ones here are recorded, which takes a long time, edited, takes even longer, and then uploaded just for you guys to gain something out of it. At the very least, make sure you always like, comment and subscribe. Share the videos so other people can learn how to do things themselves as well. Until next time guys, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching Billshowto.